What's up guys, Zenari here, and today we're going to be doing a deck profile for Top Out Pacifica with the updated stuff from Twinkle Melody. So we're going to go through all of the Crystal Melody decks and then transition to Twinkle Melody for the new decks that came from that set. So let's get started. We're going to start with the main Vanguard Top Out Pacifica. At Vanguard Circle, call Soul Blast 1 and activate all the effects below according to the number of rear guards with Pacifica in their card names. One or more, this unit gets power plus 10,000 in one drive until the end of turn. Two or more, you get 2 magic gifts force, and 3 or more until the end of turn, when your opponent will call from his or her hand to Guardian Circle. He or she must call 3 or more at the same time. Then 3 of the supporting rear guard for, grade 3 for Pacifica, which is Refined Poser Ursula. So auto, Vanguard rear guard, 1 place, cost, Caramas 1, search for up to 1 Top Out Pacifica from your deck or drop zone, reveal it and put it into your hand. If you search your deck, shelf your deck. So on to the grade 2s, we have 4 Crowning Partner Abane, auto, Vanguard rear guard, 1 place, put up to 1 Faith Up Top Idol Pacifica, each from drop zone and damage zone into your hand. And if you put from your damage zone, put the top card of your deck into your damage zone. This ability may be only used by a card with the same name once a turn. Then we have 3 of the new grade 2 for Pacifica. Expect Rhythm Viella. So it's 1 effect. At Vanguard rear guard, if your opponent is top out, if your Vanguard is Top Out Pacifica, or expect Rhythm Viella, cost Caramas 1 and put another rear guard on the bottom of your deck. And call up to 1 normal unit from your drop zone to RC. Choose all your rear guards and until the end of your opponent's next turn. They can boost. It cannot be chosen by your opponent's card abilities. Next, we have 4 Top Out of Aqua. Continuous Vanguard rear guard. During your turn, if you have another unit in the same column as this unit gets 5,000 power. Then auto, Vanguard rear guard, 1 place, return up to 1 of your other normal units on RC to your hand. If you return a card, draw a card, and discard a card from your hand, this ability may be used by a card with the same card name once a turn. Now on to the grade 1s, we play 4 Fresh Start Coral. So Vanguard, 1 place. If your soul has a card with Pacifica in its card name, draw a card and put a card from your hand into your soul. And RC, auto, 1 place, soul charge 1, and if you have a Vanguard with Coral in this card name, soul charge 1, and this unit gets power plus 5,000 to the end of turn. Next, we play 3 Mermaid Idol Senna. So Vanguard rear guard, during your turn, if another unit is in the same column as this unit gets 5,000 power. And auto, Vanguard rear guard, 1 place from hand, look at 5 cards from the top of your deck, reveal up to 1 grade 3 from among them and put it into your hand. Shuffle your deck, and if you put a card into your hand, discard a card. Then we play 4 of the new grade 1 from Twinkle Melody, Rainbow Shard Urani, auto, Vanguard rear guard, 1 place, look at 7 cards from the top of your deck, reveal up to 1 card with Pacifica in this card name from among them and put it to your hand. Shuffle your deck, and this unit gives 3,000 power until the end of turn. The last for grade 1s, we play Topping Mascot Zero, and it has 1 ability, auto, Vanguard rear guard, 1 place, Caramas 1, look at 7 cards from the top of your deck, reveal up to 1 Top Idol Pacifica in a Refined Poser Ursula, each from among them, and put them into your hand. Shuffle your deck. If your opponent's Vanguard are grade 1, you may pay Soul Blast 1 for this cost. And for the grade 0s, our starting Vanguard is Angelic Star Coral. And for the triggers, we play 10 critical triggers and 2 of the Draw PG Baby Linne. So it's a Sentinel from the very first set for Bermuda Triangle, and the new Sentinel crit Cherish Phrase Renee Rena. Cher's phrase Rena. So, and we play 4 heals. So, the winning image for this deck is to have top out Pacifica with the other 3 copies of her on the field to get massive power in your front row from the multiple force markers you obtain, and to have that hard leg effect with the 3 or more cards, so it will be very difficult for your opponent to guard against them. So that's mainly the main play you want to do with Pacifica, since 3 or more cards with massive numbers is hard to guard. So for this winning image, I personally play Force 1, but Force 2 is actually valuable now, since we do have more critical triggers, and we have rear guards that are able to power themselves up and be considered as boosters, thanks to Viella being able to give every card on the field boost. So of course it's a simple winning image, but all of the cards in this deck facilitate to that winning image. So of course we have Ursula being a simple on play counterboss 1 to search your deck or drop for 1 Pacifica is really strong for this deck, just to be able to thin out your main ideal Vanguard that you would like to ride and you like to call to rear guard. Bane being able to get Pacifica from your damage zone or drop, and to be able to just recur them super easily. It helps the deck so you won't brick as much, or not to be able to get Pacifica fully online. And Aqua, for this deck, she allows 2 things. 1, a powerful booster if you use Viella. 2, she allows you to reuse your whole grade 1 lineup. So I will explain the new card that was from Twinkle Melody, Rainbow Shard Urani. She is a simple look top 7, get a Pacifica, so basically it replaces herself for being when you call her, and she gets power, so she's 11k, which I will explain what the weaknesses of the deck was before and the weaknesses of it now, which she did solve a little issue of Pacifica's early game not being as strong enough. So she's just a top 7 search that's free, that doesn't cause any counter blast or discard. If you get Pacifica, that's good. If not, you still get power. Senna is of course here for getting either one of these grade 3s, but mainly you want Pacifica. If you get Ursula too, if you have Pacifica, that's just a on play counterboss 1, search your Pacifica, and you're all good. And she's a 13k booster that helps your Pacifica columns get even huger. Ideally, you will want Aqua as like the main booster, since she'll be 15k instead of 13k, but Senna is just as good. And the reason why we play Fresh Start Coral is because this deck relies on Soul for Pacifica. Now I know games in Standard do not end as long as they used to before when Pacifica came out. Soul was an issue only because there'll be some games where you just don't have it and your opponent lasts for longer to you and you can't do any plays other than having to make awkward plays to ride Pacifica to have that soul and to get her back from drop to hand, so you keep looping her that way. But that's not an issue anymore since we play Fresh Start Coral, and that's what I was personally playing with before. And we have Aqua to be able to reuse Coral, and you just secure your soul to the end of the game. So, and of course we have Zero to be able to look for Ursula or Pacifica. If you get both, that's essentially a +1 in hand, which is really good because it facilitates your main winning image to be on Pacifica, to call all of her to the field, and to do essentially a final turn to your opponent. Since we play multiple crits now, and thanks to the Sentinel crit, we're able to have that extra shield to be able, shield and critical to be able to actually survive. And her +1 drive isn't as bad as it was before, thanks to the Sentinel crit. If you check it, good, you get 30k shielded to your hand, and it's a Sentinel too. So it just really helps the deck that you're able to play cards like Aqua to be able to reuse your entire grade 1 lineup. Viella to be able to call cards like Aqua to reuse your grade 1s, or calling Urani or Cero. You can't call Senna because you need to place it from hand. Viella can replace essentially a trigger unit. So you can replace a trigger unit, put it in bottom deck. You can call Urani. I believe she shuffles, yes. You call Urani, look at the top 7, it whiffs, you shuffle, you put back your triggers to increase the consistency of you check your crits on the Pacifica swing. And Senna also shuffles the deck. Sarah also shuffles the deck, so you have deck shufflers. And essentially Viella, if you have her on the field behind the Vanguard, which is what I would recommend, all your rear guards are protected except when it gets swung into. But you have her, Abane, and Ursula to get her back from the drop zone. Yeah, so that is pretty much the winning image of this deck. Now, the weaknesses of this deck in the past was that, one, your early game was not strong enough to facilitate to you to have a pushing lead. You needed to go first and to be able to find your pieces, which was just entirely luck based with all the cards that we had before. Some of them required a counter blast to do. It was just unoptimal. You could get choked out of CB if you need Ursula to search your Pacificas from drop, as well as you didn't gain that much advantage. Even with the triple drive from Pacifica, you had to play the grade 1 that gave only your Pacificas resist and the boost, which wasn't very optimal. Viella kind of solves the problem of you not having to play that grade 1 anymore, because it gives all of your cards boost, so that means you can put Pacificas in the back row and protect at least one of them, since if you have all 3 out, one of them will be in the front row. You don't have to call both of them in the front, to ensure that you won't get damage denied or sniped from other binding skills, as well as bind was an issue. So if you're just playing against a deck like Deleters or Vanquisher, they can easily bind a grade 1 or just target the grade 1 that gave them resist, and now they're targeted. But once you play Viella, your opponent can no longer choose anything. The whole field is protected except from swinging into them, which again, your opponent does not want to do that because you're Pacifica, and if you're getting too many force markers, the game starts going downhill and they can't block all of the attacks with 3 or more cards in their hand. So again, the main weakness of this deck, I would say, is that it's only 3 attacks. Everything else, it can gain advantage just from simply soul blasting. You can use Setna, Urani, and Aqua to be able to get your Pacificas, even with 1 on the field. It's sort of like a slower Prisms, that Prisms multi-attack and they gain power and they gain a lot of advantage, while Pacifica only have 3 attacks, but it's like high-powered attacks that your opponent can't simply just toss down a perfect guard. They have to discard like a total of 4 cards to stop 1 attack. So like I said, the first issue was the early game power. Urani sort of solves that. Senna and Aqua definitely solved that. In my original list, I played grade 2 Sonata for the early game rush, and it only could attack Vanguard, but since Aqua's here, she can reuse the entire grade 1 lineup, and she just exists as a 50k attacker. With a simple AK, with any of these, is 23. Hits numbers, you push, your opponent would most likely guard, but again, we play 10 critical triggers, and they might just lose on a turn if you have all of them on the field, and they can't guard anything because they use their shield early. So this is why I play 4 Aqua, especially for the turn 2 rush, and to be able to reuse all of the grade 1s in our grade 1 lineup. So other than that, like I said, the only real major weakness that this deck has is only 3 attack, and maybe sometimes you can not get Pacifica, but with basically if you have an Aqua, you kind of multiply these by 2, the grade 1 lineup by 2, since you can just reuse it. So you have a lot of checks, and it just helps to the strategy for you to be able to get Pacifica into your hand and just do your final turn and your winning image for the deck. So yeah, those were, I'll only say again to refresh, the only weakness Pacifica has is that it's 3 attack, it is sword piece reliant, but with this deck, the old issues are gone. As for the text for this deck, I'll recommend, if you don't really like playing Aqua, then you could play Flustered Idol Frietta. So basically, when she's placed on Rearguard Circle, you get to start a card from your hand and draw a card, and if there's top out Pacifica in your drop zone, you can boss 1, and you can put that back into your hand. So essentially, she's a +1 if you discard Pacifica early, which it isn't bad. I used to use that card a lot. I think that's like, it was one of the better cards from Crystal Melody that a lot of people didn't really use, but it was always an option just for you to like just dig through your deck a bit better. But I still think the Aqua's a lot more important to the deck to be able to get your Corals to massive soul charge, for Setna to be able to search your grade 3s out, Urani to get Pacificas and power, and Cero to reuse her search effect to be able to get both Ursula and Pacifica. Now, for the grade 1s, if you don't like Coral, you could replace it with Aurora. There's like a bunch of copies of that card, so it should be very easy to come by. You can also play Solota if you like the card. Like, I understand why it was played, and the card itself was okay, but we have Viella that's just a better version of it, but for a counterblast 1, and you're technically replacing a rear guard. So like I said, you can put a trigger to the bottom of the deck, call like Urani or Senna. Well, Senna's placed right now. So Urani or Cero. I think your main target will be Urani for the shuffle. But basically, if you don't like Coral and the whole Coral engine thing with Soul Charge, I completely understand. You can play Solota again for that easy access to the resist for your units without the same name as your Vanguard. And yeah, Thor is just free rather than just paying a counterblast and replacing a rear guard. But yeah, that's so far all for the text and my closing remarks for this deck as a whole. So Pacifica is actually very cheap to build, but for what it was during the time where it was a force meta, Pacifica was a very I would say like a rogue contender at the time, since force doesn't have the necessary hands to be able to guard against the hard leg effect. But now, since with Aqua, Senna, Urani, and Viella, it fixed the weaknesses of the previous deck before, was that it was susceptible to bind, which Viella cancels out, and it wasn't like really consistent in getting Pacificas into your hand. With Aqua and Urani and Senna, you're able to have more checks for your deck to be able to get Pacifica or Ursula. Again, Abane's just been there from the beginning. It's a good card. You need Pacifica in your damage. If it's in the damage zone, you just get it. Or from your drop, you can get it. But also you have Viella that can just get it from your drop zone. Or you can combo Viella with Abane. If you don't have it, that's why Abane is really strong, in my opinion. But the reason why I only run her as a 3 of is because it can clutter, and I think if Pacifica's in the damage zone and you can't get her out, you're screwed. And Aqua facilitates to the early game and reusing your gray one. So, but yeah, Pacifica's a fun, cheap deck to buy and to build. I definitely recommend it. So, if you guys enjoyed the video, I'm Zenarion. I'm signing off.